Hi, I've been asked to contribute to Thought for the Day, one of the many contributions that have been made since the series started. And it got me thinking about the Christian's relationship with the day, but also with God in the day. Do I really give any thought for the day? I have to confess, I sometimes just let the day roll over me. This is especially true after retirement. It's so easy to lose any navigation markers as to even what day of the week it is. In the days of lockdown, I was helping someone who had become ill and had to call the paramedics. The paramedics asked that person if they knew what day of the week it was. The person looked confused, but thankfully was able to answer other questions without a problem. I then had to admit to the paramedics that I also did not know what day of the week it was. Not just the day, but the weeks were rolling over me. The Bible is full of days when momentous events occur, from creation itself and throughout the history of the people of God. There was a structure to remembering these events right through to the establishment of the Lord's Day. But what about today? If it's not Easter, Christmas, Sunday, or a life event, what thought do we give this day? Will we remember this day next week? A passage in scripture I constantly find a blessing is Isaiah 12, which starts, "In that day." And I had a quick scan through the Bible and found that the phrase, "in that day," occurs 114 times. Nearly every time it's linked to a momentous blessing or judgment from the Lord. The people in each of those passages would have had no doubt about the presence of the Lord. The Lord was in action. But the same Lord is in action today. It is just we do not always perceive his blessings or his presence or his love. So going back to Isaiah 12, the opening line on from the release of the people of God, the opening line follows on from the release of the people of God from captivity. And to my mind, the whole chapter is a mini picture of discipleship. In that day you will say, although you were angry with me, your anger has turned away. In that day you will say, you have comforted me. In that day you will say, God is my salvation. Despite God's anger, he has reconciled his people to himself and restored their relationship, a loving relationship. In the second half of the chapter, it goes on to show some of the responsibilities that the people of God had. In that day, you will say, proclaim his name. In that day, make known among the nations what he's done. Make them remember his name is exalted. In that day, let this be known throughout the world. In that day, shout aloud and sing for joy. In that day, great in your midst is the Holy One of Israel. Isaiah was so aware of God's presence in his life in that day. So what is your perception of today? Is it just going to roll over us? Or are we going to seek the Lord, come into his presence, be aware of his presence and his blessings, be aware of his action in our lives? If you were to write a diary entry tomorrow about today that started with the phrase, in that day, how would you complete the sentence? Have a good day.